Here's Brody Brazil.
I've always said that I never feel comfortable commenting on or critiquing others in my own industry. It's just way too close and personal in this sphere of sports broadcasting and sports media. That being said, yes, I recently did a video on Stephen A. Smith, and this video is largely going to involve Pat McAfee. But I want to make this point. I'm trying to keep this all about the situation more than the individuals. I don't know Stephen A. Smith. I don't know Pat McAfee personally, but it's a small world and somebody always knows somebody else, maybe indirectly. So I have no personal bias here. I have no background with Stephen A. or Pat McAfee, but I want to basically pose this question as kind of the overall point of this video. Maybe too much, too quick. For some that enter the business like Pat McAfee or others on a similar trajectory. And let me begin by saying I realize Pat right now is in a little bit of hot water. There's a college student out there and her family considering legal action against Pat and maybe his show and maybe ESPN for apparently spreading false rumors. By the way, this story has nothing to do with sports. It's kind of awkward for me to even bring up here. Pat apparently wasn't the originator of this story, but his reach and his influence may have amplified it to the forefront to the point where it became overwhelming for this student and her family. McAfee's show, as you know, is a prominent part of ESPN programming, so whether they had anything to do with this or not, probably not. They're part of it because they're the ones that have largely platformed Pat's show. McAfee's ascent, right, in sports media, it's been incredible, especially in the last handful of years, but you realize he only retired from the NFL in 2017 and instantly entered the media game with Barstool and then dabbled with Fox and then ESPN, and he's gone multiple routes. His own show, his own podcast, his own YouTube channel, The Pat McAfee Show. Then he's a guest on College Game Day. Then he's a panelist on College Game Day. Then he's on Fox Sports game broadcasts of college football and beyond. He also has a whole separate deal with WWE. I mean, Pat McAfee has become kind of a media mogul very quickly and across so many platforms. It makes you wonder, how does somebody have time for all of this and being a family person and being a parent? I ask from personal opinion. That's a lot to bite off and try and chew for any one individual. I realize he's got a team of people surrounding him, but again, that keeps McAfee pretty busy and occupied on a week-to-week basis. And so it brings me to some kind of instant red flags that I see here with the situation at present and with other controversies and problems that McAfee has gotten himself into. Exponential growth like he's experiencing, it can't be sustained. You can't constantly be joining 10 new things, and your metrics and views and numbers, they can't climb at that steady rate. They can't keep improving. At some point, they're going to level off. At some point, you're going to stop growing and you have to start maintaining an audience, a brand, however you want to look at it, and whatever stats you want to point out. At some fork in the road, everything has to kind of level out. It can still grow. But the skyrocketing growth that McAfee has seen in his career, he's trying to keep that going. Because why not? I get it. You're looking at a graph, you're looking at the way things are going, and you want to go straight up, like it has been for the last several years. And to do that, you're willing to push limits and find boundaries and maybe get yourself in a little bit of trouble just to see if it was worth it. And it becomes tempting for anybody in broadcasting, whether it's old school like radio or print or broadcast television, whether it's news school like social media or a channel on YouTube or anything else on the internet. Everybody's trying to find out where the limit is. And in the case of McAfee, he's always trying to keep things accelerated at a ridiculous pace. And herein lies the problem. This is not somebody with a tremendous background in, I don't want to say public appearance, because as a professional athlete, he's understanding of what it means to be a public figure and the responsibilities that come with it. But in terms of doing the actual job, sitting in front of a microphone, which is kind of like a loaded weapon at times. You realize the things you say into this microphone, can be great. They can be insightful. They can help people. They can bring people together. I mean, there's a lot of positivity that comes with having an audience, but it can also get you in trouble. Less experience and lots of exposure equals a certain amount of volatility. Like when the topic comes up that has nothing to do with sports, that is spreading a rumor, that could get you in trouble, the more seasoned veteran at this, and I don't care whether he played football or whatever he did in his prior career. That part doesn't really matter. It's the fact that he hasn't been doing this for a very long time and didn't know where to draw the line here on this, and that puts you in kind of a volatile situation. Now look, that's probably also why a lot of people like Pat McAfee, because he doesn't come off as Brody broadcaster, because he's willing to be a little bit more edgy, because at some points, I don't think he necessarily knows where the lines and boundaries are, but he wants to find out, and he wants to do that to improve where the show is at. It is the job of sports media here in 2025 to catch your attention, your eyes, your ears, to get clicks and metrics and all that stuff. And that's also a red flag of this situation, right? You're always trying to be edgy. You're always trying to be spicy, because if you're not, are you assured to be around? I mean, he's on, I think, like a 5-year, $85 million deal. He shouldn't worry too much about what's next. It should be more about maintaining than trying to grow. But there is always going to be that pressure that you have to keep something new and fresh and spicy and entertaining on the platform. Otherwise, people might go away. Also this, an instant red flag. I mean, if Pat McAfee were doing his show 20 years ago, you're on air, and I don't know that everybody's recording it because computers aren't recording everything, and it was videotapes back then, and who's got the time and effort to do all that? But everything in 2025 is recorded and streamed and captured and has the ability for replay. So anybody can instantly go back on pretty much anything you said, and if it was bad, it's going to live forever, and it can be held against you forever. I mean, I'm not sure what McAfee is doing in terms of the sports approach and broadcasting. It's not new. Maybe he's just the 2025 version of a shock jock. Remember in the 80s and 90s? Oh, can you believe what they're saying on the radio? It's so edgy and it's not great. And that was kind of a big stink back in the day. And now it's just being taken to a podcast or a show that is on the internet, but also produced for television. And on that note, I give McAfee a lot of credit for taking new media, like starting his own thing and bringing it back to old media, selling it to old media. This is not the conventional way that it goes. Usually, old media creates something and tries to push it on new media. And it sometimes goes okay. Other times it doesn't go well because you're trying to be that structured old media and you're trying to be too buttoned up, and it just doesn't work on the internet. The TV thing doesn't always work on the internet. But he's taking something that's new media and he sold it back to old media. I also think, again here, the total trap for McAfee is just that he's chasing this growth, he's chasing this attention and audience that seems to multiply, and it's just a very difficult job. He's been doing it so far, but at some point, you might have to reach and stretch if you want that line to continue at the same angle it's been going at. I think that's what Pat and what a lot of people are up against right now with their respective platforms. And Pat being tied to a big company like ESPN, I suppose, right? Now, they've kind of gone all in on the big name figures, the Stephen A's, the Pat McAfees, big companies like ESPN. I suppose that eventually over time, they will decide if this is worth it. If there are people getting in trouble and having to defend that. And I'm not saying it is or it isn't. I'm just saying that is ultimately the equation that a big company like ESPN is going to look at. Well, the numbers are good, but the problems are bad. How do we get more of this and less of this? Can that person do it for us? Is he or she even capable of that? So big companies are ultimately going to decide how this goes. Look, Pat can be successful on the internet on his own. I don't know that he necessarily needs ESPN, but wow, it platforms him in a totally different way than where he was before, which wasn't bad. It's just that he has been amplified so quickly. That's my big point here. Things have come at him and for him so fast that maybe there's not enough seasoning, there's not enough understanding here, and he's trying to push the limits and boundaries so quickly that there is no time to stop and slow down and think about what are we doing here, and is this really the best idea? And I'm not trying to let McAfee off the hook easy here. I'm not trying to say that he holds no responsibility. I mean, this is a grown adult human being, but he just doesn't have the experience in what he's doing and the volume of what he's doing. And so there are going to be some trouble spots like this for McAfee and anybody else who ascends so quickly without a wide body of experience. Let me know what you think about all this in the comment section below. Also, while you're down there, thumbs up helps me, this video, and this channel. And one more thing, don't forget to subscribe, hit that button down below so I can definitely see you back here next time.